I've got to give a shout out to one of our members from Australia, Gary Bolter, who heads up our guys in Australia, Sydney, for doing that intro and classically getting the Critical Drinker's name slightly incorrect, but also honouring our film critic, Barry Norman. May he rest in peace at the same time. Now, Will's not coming on camera today because he got electrocuted when he was plugging in the Christmas tree, and his hair is not as unique as normal. But I'm going to bring him in now to discuss all the highs and lows of film and television for 2022. Welcome, the Critical Drinker, to the stream.
Hello, sir. Merry Christmas to you and to everyone in chat.
Merry Christmas to you too, sir. And how is everyone in chat? We've got a few of our mutual regular friends, a few of the mods from the Drinkers channel, Mr. B, Mr. Brown, Josh, and a couple of others are in there. Big Daddy's just popped up. So it's like the gang's all here. There you go.
Nice.
So that's not nice to see them. And how was your Christmas, sir?
It's been fantastic, man. Lots of food was eaten and lots of drink was drunk. So I'm perfectly happy.
Well, do you know what? I had a really quite light Christmas on the alcohol front. So I plan to change that tonight.
Good man. That's the spirit. Yeah, well, I was going to say I was totally happy, and then I had to watch The Witcher Blood Origin, and wow, that was next level garbage.
I've just seen your review of that, and I have watched the pilot, and I was going to give it. Am I right? It's a mini series of 4 episodes, and that's it. Is that right?
That's it. Yeah, just a limited series.
So I was going to give it one more episode because I like to, give it a couple of episodes. Have to admit, and I'm a guy who likes to make up my own mind about stuff. I'll listen to opinions, but I like to see stuff for myself. I think you might have put me off watching that.
Yeah, save yourself 4 hours, man. You can put that into something more productive, like taking a dump.
And believe me, that's been happening because it's that post-Christmas time.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'll tell you what. Why don't we kick off by talking about, because there were, amongst all the stuff, and there was a lot happened, I think, culturally in 2022. There was a lot of debate over the integrity of the content of shows and the way that they were being written, and you and some of your contemporaries have brought up some really interesting arguments about a lot of things, and I'm glad to see those being debated out there, and they should be. But I'd like to talk about some of the nuggets, because I thought there were a few cracking shows, and there were a few cracking films. And a couple that really stood out for me in particular. So what do you think of your maybe top 3 TV streaming shows? Because you did advance warn me and told me you'd done numerous charts and graphs and things that you wanted to present. Shall I mention a couple of mine?
Yeah, go for it, man.
And you can tell me whether you've seen them and chat. Listen, if you want to chip in, we'll deal with one topic at a time. So, but if you want to chip in, please do. There's a couple of comments already. Jim Diaz says it's been a terrible year for films, and without Top Gun, a total disaster. Well, I can't agree with that. I've got a few that I'm going to throw at you that I think you'd like. But let's wait and see. The Northman was a highlight for this year for me. Now, I haven't seen that. Will, you saw that? Did you like that?
I did indeed. Yeah, I did see it, and I liked it very much. The director, is it Daniel Egerts? I think it is. Anyway, whatever his name is, he has got a very nice style of direction. He's very into his artistic style of direction. Very
he's very visual, isn't he? Very visual with his narrative.
Very visually unusual. Obviously when you're dealing with the same guy who did The Lighthouse, you've got something pretty interesting there. And The Northman is just a great example of that. That you can have these big A-list movies, but done in a very interesting, arty sort of way. Something that's a bit more experimental and just outside the norm. And it just felt like a very non-conventional movie, which it's great to see. I don't think it did huge numbers at the box office, but ultimately I liked it. I thought it was good.
I think it did okay, but it broke even, didn't it? Pretty sure.
More or less, yeah, but it's not a big money maker. But I'm glad it got made. It's good to see that films like that are still getting made and still getting good releases. So that was heartening to see.
It felt like a film with a director's vision and a director's stamp on it, not like a one that was made by a committee of 12 people debating what should be in the movie or the show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's nice to see artistic visions still get realized.
As a friend of mine, Ollie Hollingdale, who's an indie film director, big fan of yours as well. Northman was my favourite film this year. So there you go. We got Mr. B chipping in. Tokyo Vice TV series was excellent. He's right about that. It absolutely was. So my number one pick, no one's mentioned, and the box set of it arrived today. Well, in fact, I've got a top three, and two of mine that are in the top three. Both the Blu-ray box sets arrived today. Still in their shrink wrap. Not even had time to unwrap them yet. And I don't think you've seen one of these, Will. And I'm gonna have to urge you most strongly to see it and also see the sequel. And that would be 1883. Now, have you seen it?
Yes, I haven't seen it. No, but I'm working my way through Yellowstone at the moment. I think I'm on season 3 at the moment. I think, and loving it. It's great.
Well, that's great because I really want to talk about. You see, because I don't think when I listen to your streams, we talk. You talk about a lack of cohesive vision, a lack of, where are the legendary filmmakers? Where are the people that are putting their stamp on things and saying this is the kind of show I want to make? And I've got to say, one of the people that I think is doing that in the industry is Taylor Sheridan. So I want to give him a big shout out. He's the guy behind Yellowstone. He's the guy behind 1883. He's the guy behind the now sequel series to this, 1923, which I just watched the first 2 episodes of the other day, and we'll also be getting the box set. For those people that don't know anything about 1883, it's a Yellowstone origin story, and it's about how that family first came to that part of America. I think is it set in Montana? Is that right? Will, is that where?
Yes,
where the
it
branch
is. It's Montana. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's them coming there in the 1800s.
I kind of like with Yellowstone, I heard it described as being like Dallas meets Game of Thrones, and it kind of feels a bit like that.
That's exactly how I described it to somebody earlier today, and that's exactly right. And it really takes off at the end of season 3. It really takes off at the end of season 3. It's got great characters, really good storylines. I mean, this has got Sam Elliott in it, so need I say more?
I mean, whenever you got Sam Elliott involved, you got something special happening. But the 1923 one as well. That's got Harrison Ford.
It has, and you know what? He is pretty good in it. It's him and Helen Mirren as husband and wife, and I want to show you a still from that production, which is currently, funny enough, on my Facebook page. Let's see if I can work out how to do this without screwing up the stream. So yeah, here we go. For you kids watching, this is not how you do it at home. All right, so this is a still from the pilot of 1923.
Yeah.
And this is a continual tracking shot. And what it is that up until this point, you haven't really seen these guys, these characters in a modern town that's been hit by the modernization of America, the age of the motor car. So you see how many vintage cars they've got in that one shot. And when this pulls back, this street looking the other way goes on for miles, bit of green screen involved, but it looks really good. And then around the corner, just to the left of this shot, there's a makeshift boxing ring, and there's a load of people boxing there. And then around the corner from that, there's some suffragette ladies, and then around the corner from that, there's some other women protesting against prohibition and brothels and this kind of thing.
So it's just a total microcosm of American culture at that time in one shot.
Yeah, and absolutely brilliant production design and all the rest of it. And then in one of the things I wanted to mention about that show, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is that there's a scene with Jennifer Ehle, great British actress, playing one of the Catholic nuns from that period, and she's one of the people in her charge is one of the Indian women who's a half breed, and that goes back to this show, 1883. That's how her character comes about. And of course, she's these nuns and these priests. It was all like the abuse and stuff that came out later. Well, we see all of that going on. And they set up the relationship between Jennifer Ealy and this Indian woman with one scene in the pilot and about 3 lines of dialogue, no exposition, and you know exactly how their relationship is going to play out. And it says everything you need to know about those characters. And I was thinking about that and thinking, wow, 2 amazing scenes in this pilot. And I was thinking about the opening 2 or 3 scenes of Willow.
Oh God.
That
was a show, wasn't it?
Well, I'm it's on my list to what were the big howlers, but we haven't got there yet. So I'm going to kind of include these as one. But 1883 debuted on Boxing Day last year, but the full show dropped in 2022, became available in 2022. For me, for shows, streaming shows, this is my number 1 pick for 2022. Give me one of yours. What would you?
Well, one of the big surprises for me, I guess, was House of the Dragon. It was a show that... There we go, yay!
My second box set.
We didn't rehearse this behind the scenes. I can promise you that. But I think great minds think alike on this sort of thing. But yeah, man, like it was a show that seemed to have everything going against it. You know, it was trying to be a prequel to a Game of Thrones that had ended horribly. People were quite soured on the whole world of Westeros. The fans were pissed off at George for not finishing his next book. And it just seemed like another dumb vanity project that he was getting involved in. And even the trailer, you know, seemed a bit laden with the whole, men would rather see the realm burn than have a woman on the throne. And I just thought, okay, it's going to be another one of those shows. But then, yep, it started up. We got into it. And within that very first episode, you know who people are. You are gripped by these characters. You're invested in the world that they're in. And it's just an interesting, well thought out drama, and it just gets better with every episode. I mean, Paddy Considine deserves like a Golden Globe for this shit.
So good, so good in it.
Fantastic. Like I say, by the end, I was just like, I almost don't want it to stop. Like, it's so good.
One of the ways you can measure how good that show was is you could have seen none of the episodes of Game of Thrones whatsoever.
Yeah,
you could have read none of the books. You could have watched that pilot, just that pilot, and you still would have got everything that was going on.
Yes.
You didn't need a big background exposition speech. It was, it's a story about warring families in a fantasy setting, but they focused purely on the drama and the politics, and they told us what we needed to know. And I mean, if you watch not David Tennant, the other Doctor Who, Matt Smith, if you watch Matt Smith's performance in that, he says so much with his character with so little.
Yeah, he's the master of the stare, especially like kind of looking down his nose at people.
Yeah.
Very good. But the other thing as well is like it shows that you don't always need spectacle to grip people. You know, one of the most compelling moments in the whole series is just a man walking down a room to get to the throne, to sit on a chair essentially. But it's just perfect the way it's done when you know what he's going through and what he's having to sacrifice for this. Incredible stuff.
You're talking about Paddy Considine, where he insists on walking up to it alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he has to make one final ruling to protect his daughter's legacy.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously he can barely walk at this point. He's a man who's just clinging on to life, and he's able to rally himself enough to do this thing. Brilliant scene.
You've got that great moment where he looks at all the family, and just for the briefest of minutes, everyone's
just happy.
Everyone's just happy.
That's all he wants. That's all he wants. He's just a family man. He wants his family to be happy. He probably would have done better in life as just like a guy, you know, living in a country manor house or something and not being king. But what a fantastic character and what an incredible performance by Paddy. Can't fault it. No, that's not to take anything away from the other actors and actresses.
No,
they all do a great job.
Yeah, I'd say that Paddy and Matt in that show, they're two of the standout performances of the year for me in any show, I would say.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about that a bit more deeply. But and Will Johnson, who I've worked with a couple of times, and DJ'd for me on what I would like to say was the happiest day of my life, was also the guy that got beheaded.
Oh yeah. Oh, is he the guy who was like, it was like cut right across his head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so clever because they set it up like he was going to be the next main character for that family. So I did not see it coming at all. And then
I liked that moment as well where he's he's warned, he's got that choice of whether or not to make the accusation, about her children, and it's like, these children are, and then he kind of looks at each of them and you think, maybe he's going to back down, and then he just absolutely belts it out and just goes, bastards.
Yeah, it's really good scene. And Matt Smith's character, is it Damon? Is his character called Damon? Yeah, like he kind of had no choice after that. But the way that they shot it as well, you didn't see him move behind him or anything. You just saw the head slice and then he was there. It was really good bit of direction. Well, one of your choices is also one of mine. So that's, actually, I've got all these written on the list behind me. I actually did some work. So it's on there behind me. Somebody, by the way, just said in chat, this is quite quiet for a Drinker stream. That's because it's not a Drinker stream. It's an Outcasts Creative stream, which the Drinker is very kindly agreed to be a guest on. So as somebody else, thank you, admin. And the Critical Drinker is keen to try and get us up to 1,000 subs. So
let's do it. I believe in us. We can get this over the 1K, because I think you're about 830, 840 subs. So we need around.
I think around 830. And
so we need another 170 from this stream. We can do it. Tell your friends. Get them to subscribe to the Outcast Creative, and we'll get them over 1K.
Okay, there you go. So well, if you're tuning in and you're not normally here, please go on Twitter, Facebook, wherever, Top Tick. And stream it, and then other people can see it and jump on. Maybe we can get the numbers up a bit. It did occur to me it would have been better for me to have come on your stream to do that afterwards, but as long as we're talking about films, man, I don't really mind. So okay, so other TV shows. You got a second one? I've got.
Okay. I can give you one if you like.
Yeah, go for it. That you thought were good.
Okay, pick the second is probably Stranger Things, which again was a surprise for me. Yeah. Again, Stranger Things, a show that I very much was thinking was in decline. Season 3 for me was weak as. The characters were getting kind of unlikable. Hopper was just a joke at this point. It was way too reliant on goofy humor and like the whole like Russian connection stuff. It was all like really childishly done, and a lot of the characters, especially Max, were just becoming really unlikable. Really brash, arrogant, and annoying, and I just was not enjoying it. And I felt like the whole 11 thing was played out to the max as well. Like, she was just a superhuman at this point. She could do anything.
Which kind of eliminated the drama somewhat. Didn't you also find that the third season lost its sense of identity in terms of time and place? Like the original stuff, we knew we were in the 80s. It was very clear, and I felt like they became quite lazy with a lot of that production design on season 3, and you didn't get those.
A lot of it was centered around shopping malls, which I think. Yeah, in the mid 80s was when they really became a big thing in America, like the out of town shopping mall, and so that's where a lot of their focus was. But then it's not really unique to the 80s, is it? Like, we have shopping malls everywhere now, so it doesn't feel like it has a specific time or place.
Well, that reminds me of something I wanted to show you. Check this out. So this is an advert for the shopping malls near the summer camp in 1988 where I was staying that I made sure I got from the paper so I could see what films were on my day off.
Die Hard, yes. And
That's
The Blob.
Right. Yeah. And Big. And
Yep.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And this is all from... And I kept a diary every single day that year. Like literally every single day. Look. Including all the places I traveled and stuff. And I wrote down all of the movies that I saw and I reviewed them. And the list is in this diary. And I copied out the list the other day. And I saw 94 films that year.
Damn. And you've noted them all down in your diary. You're way better organized than I'll ever be, that's for sure.
Look, man, this is part of the list. It's all falling apart, but can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
See all the films on there? There's
Red Heat, yes.
Yeah.
Running Man.
Yeah. There's a whole load. There's another page as well. And I'm translating this story and I'm making it into a novel and I'm calling it 1988. So, and I'm going to do a rip-off of the Die Hard poster, but with a different face on it.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, I thought that would be quite fun, man. That was a good year for movies, that was. Anyway, we digress slightly. So, Stranger Things, House of Dragon for you. I had House of Dragon as well in 1883. So, my third one, and I'm trying to remember if I saw a season of it this year or not. Sometimes, because of the pandemic, the years have kind of blurred a bit lately.
Yeah.
But Succession would be the next one for me. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen that, so I can't vouch for it.
You've been recommended it a few times, I believe.
I have indeed, yeah.
I mean, the best way to describe it really is it's like a very, very dark version of Dallas where all the characters are absolutely horrible and you hate them.
Right.
And that normally isn't a good way to go with a show because if you can't relate to any of the people in it, you don't sympathize with them, you turn off. What makes the show so deliciously brilliant is it's the way that they all go at each other. You just like watching them tear chunks apart, and you suddenly find yourself rooting for one person one episode, and then another character will do something really devious that you didn't expect. And some of the weaker characters become a lot stronger as the show goes on. And it's about this family that's got a massive dominion in the media and all the people on the fringes of it who are constantly trying to take chunks out of it and take it over,
Yeah.
And just really outstanding performances from all the cast. So, I mean, I massively, massively recommend it. Okay, so that would be my other one. You got a final one for TV top 3?
Yeah, it's got to be Cobra Kai, man. I will accept no substitutes.
That's a good choice. Curious to see what some of the people in chat are saying about it. House of Dragon was excellent. Who'd have thought? Can we get a retcon of season 8? Actually, I'm sort of leaning towards that. Nobody talks about Das Boot on Sky. Well, I have seen that. I've seen the first 2 seasons, and I wasn't that impressed.
It just felt like the Wolfgang Peterson version from the 80s just nailed it, and I don't really know how they could improve on that.
Yeah, this version is basically that with loads of unnecessary love stories thrown in.
This is what I thought. This is what I took from the trailers. It's like they put that shit in to try and pad it out a bit, and it just felt unnecessary. This was a war story, not a love story. Yeah,
it just, and there's a lot of that stuff in it as well. Hurricane Laura's checking out 1883. I hope you didn't fare too badly.
There was one guy, RRTNZ, he was saying no love for Tulsa King. I'm going to watch that, actually, because I do like Sylvester Stallone, and it's getting really good reviews, so I'll give it a go.
I've seen the first 4 episodes. In fact, funnily enough, you know where I watched those? I watched those at Billy's in Scotland.
Right, okay.
When we came in from that night out and I went drinking with you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So basically, it is true. You can survive a night of drinking with the drinker, but for all you kids watching, don't try that at home. But yeah, I watched 4 episodes of the Tulsa King back to back, and it completely suits Stallone's range, and it's kind of like a sort of cross between Mickey Blue Eyes and The Godfather.
Yeah,
if you're familiar with Mickey Blue Eyes.
Well, I mean, his whole shtick is that he's like a mob enforcer that's been done for a crime, and he just kind of kept his mouth shut and did his time in prison, and he's been in jail for like 25 years, and now he's out, and he wants to get back into it.
Yeah, there's a bit of a feud between him and the son of somebody else, and we don't know the full backstory behind that yet. But the boss man doesn't want it all kicking off, so that's why they move him to Tulsa. And he goes there to try and set things up. And the sort of premise of the show is there is no organized crime in Tulsa. So he goes to a local weed dealer, which is legal, and says, right, now you're paying me protection money for this. And he realizes they're not paying tax. So
Right.
he decides he's going to take a slice of the money that they're not paying. And they, and for that, he's going to protect them. And it's like, well, protect us from who? There isn't anybody. And anyway, but I won't tell you more, but I think it's a really good show. It's quite well written as well. I wouldn't put it in my top 3 for this year, but it's definitely one of the delights of 2022.
Yeah, Jim D in the chat, he was saying as well, remember when we had that big rivalry between Stallone and Schwarzenegger? Yeah, Stallone won. He's still putting out quality product. I think he is, yeah. This is the thing. Stallone is a good actor. Obviously he went into action movies in a big way for most of his career, and so that kind of masks the fact that he's actually pretty good at what he does. And yeah, he's got a good instinct for roles, and he's got a good instinct for writing characters as well. And I think all of that comes through, and it's allowed him to transition into a lot of more mature, roles and acting opportunities over the years. And the fact that he's still built like a brick shithouse means he can still do action if he wants to.
He's massive in Tulsa King. I mean, he really is like, I don't know how he got wider, but he has. He's got wider somehow.
I don't know if he's training up for something else. Like, I think he's got another Expendables movie on the go, so it could be that.
I could talk about the Expendable movies. Bo Romeo, I don't know who that is, but the name's familiar. It's incredible to see these two minds meet. So tonight's a real treat. Oh, well, thank you very much. So don't forget to subscribe, Bo, if you haven't done already. We're trying to get up to 1,000 subs on the Outcast channel today. Melvin said, Paddy Considine deserves to be bigger than he is. Never seen him give a bad performance. Well, I met Paddy right at the beginning of his career because I started directing the same week as Shane Meadows, who did This Is England, if you've ever seen any of those, Drinker. Mm-hmm. Shane used to have an office above the cinema that did the Shots in the Dark Festival in Nottingham. I forget the name of it now, which is also where I met Quentin Tarantino. And somebody asked us if we were related, which was hilarious.
There's a certain resemblance there.
Yeah, you're not the first person to say that. It's the chin.
Yeah.
But they had the very first screening of Pulp Fiction there, and I met him at the very first screening of Reservoir Dogs, and he remembered me because I was the first person to ask the first question. So it was, and I didn't know he was going to be there. It was a surprise film. But anyway, Paddy and Shane worked together quite a lot. Shane kind of discovered him effectively. And ever since he's broken out into bigger roles, I can tell you now, he's never stopped working because my casting director has checked his availability like 5 times, not just for me, but for other people that she casts for. And she can never get a window when he's not working to cast him in anything. Yeah. So he might not be doing the bigger roles, but I think, like my friend Jason, he likes to stay in the UK. He doesn't like to be away from his family, and and so. And I think
that's fair enough. I think House of the Dragon really proved that he's got the gravitas to be a leading man, to turn in that kind of compelling performance. Because like you, I guess I'd seen him in a lot of smaller roles, character acting, that sort of thing. Obviously, love him in the Cornetto trilogy and the various roles he plays there. But yeah, I think he could definitely pull off leading man stuff. It's just whether he wants to get involved in that, really.
Yeah, and I think he's probably more interested in the kind of the character actor roles, because he could end up with a series like Strike, which is that detective show that young actor's just done, and he's the leading guy in it now. But they've turned him into a leading man, and he had much more interesting roles when he was doing the other stuff. I'm sure he doesn't mind the paycheck though. But
well, I think Jason said that something to that effect, wasn't it? It's like he'll do the big A-list movies for the paycheck, and then lets him focus on doing more interesting stuff that he actually wants to do in between. It's good on you, man. I like it.
Bear says he did sub, and that's how he wound up catching Drinker's first appearance a year ago. Oh, well, bless him. That's very kind. And he's going to come to the Outcast acting classes, spelled with a K. Maybe we should change it to that. Okay, so we've both named 3 shows that kicked ass. Literally, in the case of Cobra Kai, which I've got to say I've enjoyed. I haven't seen the last episode of the last season of that yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, give it a go.
I parked it because I had a script I had to do within a certain time slot, and I just haven't watched it yet. Am I going to be happy?
You'll be happy with it, yeah. It's pretty enjoyable, and I just don't really know where they can take it from here, but I'll be interested to see.
Yeah, I feel like it's got limited shelf life now. It's sort of reaching. I don't want to see it go to 10 seasons.
No, exactly. I think what I've heard is that the next one will be their last, but
go out on a high,
I think they should be really proud of what they've accomplished with this. I think nobody expected this show to succeed, and yet somehow it absolutely did, and it deserves to.
Oh, well, while we're talking about good shows, we didn't mention Andor. I remember talking to you about that on your channel. I do think Andor was great. It was brilliant, slow burner, probably I'd call that the surprise hit of the year for me.
It was the dark horse of the year, I think. Didn't quite get into that top 3 category because it did have pacing issues for sure. But overall, I liked it. Yeah, it was a well-made, well thought out, well put together sci-fi action thriller series. You could even leave out the Star Wars stuff. It's just really interesting as that, really.
Do you know what? It almost could have worked as a sci-fi show on its own that wasn't set in the Star Wars universe. Could have been anywhere in another galaxy far, far away. But I think the standout people for me in that were the supporting characters. Andy Serkis's character, the actress who's playing the main villain. I forget her name.
The Imperial Intelligence Officer.
Yeah, and I've just caught her in a completely different role in something else, and I barely recognized her. Just goes to show how talented she is. But I mean, I really, really did enjoy Andor. I thought it was really good. So, biggest disappointment of the year, chat and drinker. And now this is a tough one.
this is a target-rich environment right here. I mean, I suppose for me, there's a difference between worst and biggest disappointment. Is it just TV shows or is it movies as well?
No. We'll come up. We're just doing TV at the minute. We'll come on to films after. Let's go with biggest disappointment.
Well, I mean, I guess it's got to be Rings of Power, isn't it? I mean, it's not like I had huge hopes for that anyway, but good Lord, that show was bad.
Yeah, I mean, when they first mentioned it, and I can't remember where I read this, but there was a big long interview about that it was happening, and whoever was the showrunner, I don't think they were the showrunner that they ended up with. I think it went through a few pairs of hands before it actually started, if I remember rightly. I could be wrong. Could be wrong about that.
Yes, there's a tangled web there, but ask Gary about it. He knows some pretty good behind the scenes info about how this came about.
Yeah, I've heard a few of my own, mainly from the set point of view. But the original thing at the beginning was, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of follow the look of the Peter Jackson universe, so that the houses will have the same sigils on the armor, and it will feel like a continuation of that world, even though it's set before, and so it will feel familiar, but it'll also be new. And I thought, yeah, that sounds cool. Good. I like that idea. And there were some continuity of sense of design with some things, and that was about as good as it got.
Yeah. It was right from that first scene where the character, like, where Galadriel's brother starts talking in all these horrible, tortured metaphors about why rocks sink and boats float. I just
Yeah.
knew we were onto an absolute stinker, and it just got worse from there.
And I've seen that actor, I think, on stage in a play, and he was fine. So
I mean, it's not really a performance issue. It's just like even the best actor on the planet can't make lines like that work. It's the writing in that scene and many other scenes throughout the show. It's what happens when you take an incredible IP and you put it into the hands of idiots. And there's an awful lot of that happening in Hollywood these days because it's more about ticking those boxes and getting the right people in so that we can talk about how diverse we are in our hiring practices rather than actually getting people who know what they're doing. And this is what you end up with. You end up with garbage.
Lord of the Rings made me fall in love with cinema and want to make movies. Rings of Power gave me bowel disease. That's mate. I hear you. I mean, it was one of those. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think, is another contender.
That was a bad one, yeah.
And is it legit that they've said that the next season of Obi-Wan Kenobi will be exploring his sexuality? Is that?
I don't know about that. Like, I know
that bullshit, or was that
someone
true?
apparently came out and said that it's confirmed Obi-Wan Kenobi is bisexual, and like, why is this supposed to matter? Like, what has this got to do with his character?
There's a lot of shows out there that explore that stuff, and then there are also shows that cross over into those things. You got shows like The L Word and the one that was set in Manchester that got remade in the States and did 5 times as many series, the title of which escapes me. And I've seen the American version of that, and it was very good. And then you have other straight up drama shows like The Shield and The Wire and stuff, which will have gay characters in. One of the best characters in The Wire was gay, but there was never a big thing about that he was gay. That was just who he was. That was his character from day one.
Like retconning characters is another matter, and I think genuinely there's people out there who just take real malicious delight in turning characters like that. And in a way, they feel like they're taking it away from the fandom that already supports them. It's like, we've taken another one of your heroes and we've made him gay. What are you going to do about that, fanboys? You're going to cry? Like, that's their attitude to it. It's like they don't care about any of the actual writing or the storytelling or anything. It's just scoring points, making people angry. That's all they care about.
Yeah. And it does make me angry. Jim D just said Omar's coming, which is a great quote from The Wire. I don't know. Did you watch The Wire?
I didn't watch The Wire, no.
I think you would prefer The Shield if you're going to watch one cop show like all of the seasons start to finish. Honestly, Drinker, watch The Shield. The writing is amazing. Kurt Sutter, who is the lead writer on The Shield, got Sons of Anarchy commissioned off the back of that. Mm-hmm. And Sons of Anarchy is a show, you watch one episode, shit, I've got to put the next one on. You watch the next episode, it's 2:00 in the morning. I can probably put another one on. I can move that meeting till 11.
Yeah.
And I've been there till 6 a.m. doing that, and then been on the phone at 7. So, can we move that meeting until Friday? Yeah, something's come up. I've got to go to bed now. But it's that kind of writing. It's that kind of quality. Those types of characters fit in that universe really well, whether they're part of the story or not. Star Wars was never... Star Trek was different, but Star Wars was never really a show about pushing social issue, Earth-based social issues. Star Trek did that. That was Star Trek.
Yeah.
Star Wars was just a universe that was space opera. That's the word we want. Space opera. And I think it should stay space opera. And Andor was a really good space opera. There was a little bit of hint of certain characters fancying each other and stuff. So I didn't mind any of that. That was fine. But it wasn't made a massive part of the narrative, was it?
Well, I think as well, particularly when you try to retcon characters that clearly weren't written that way before, that's when it just becomes So obnoxious. There's someone said it actually pretty well in the chat, saying it was Hurricane Laura said the original Obi-Wan had no sexual preference because it didn't fucking matter. And that's exactly true. It wasn't relevant in the slightest to his story, so who cares?
Yeah.
No. And the writers of things like this and the people who support this kind of stuff, that's literally all they see in terms of characters. It's like, what is their race, what is their gender, what's their sexual preference? That's who they are. It's not what their actual personality is. It's not the content of their character.
Indeed.
And that's what you end up with. If that's how they see the world, that's all you're going to get.
Well, we've clearly got a few fans of the Shield in here tonight. I do massively rate it. Okay, Big D had to drop out. Really nice for him to come in. So yeah, okay. I mean, I'll confess something to you. I have not watched, and I will watch stuff even if everybody trounces on something. But if I'm interested in it in the first place, I will always watch something and make up my own mind. I have not watched She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything?
You're not. You're absolutely not.
So I shouldn't be reaching for the remote as we.
I'll tell you, man. Like, if I knew my subscribers would get a kick out of me, like, watching it and having fun with it and stuff, and like, okay, fine, I was willing to do it. But if it wasn't for that, there's no way I would have gone near this. It just isn't worth your time. Shows like that are just cancer, man.
I watched a couple of scenes and I just thought, I don't know who thinks that this is funny.
That's the funny thing, yeah. Ironically, it's and
it could have been a fun show. The basic premise of, okay, it's a female version of the Hulk, and because of that, she has problems dating and finding a real, a guy where that relationship is going to work for them. That could have been an absolutely howling funny comedy. It could have been really good,
Well, I think the comic book version of She-Hulk was popular for many years because of that exact reason. It was funny, it was a little bit flirtatious, she was kind of breaking the fourth wall because she was aware of why people were reading the comics, they wanted to see her in that bikini. And it's just, it was playful and funny for that reason. Whereas this is just, every single joke basically devolves into, men, aren't they dumb? That's basically all you get from this, and it's written from the point of view of like 30-something singletons who are kind of bitter and unhappy with their lives. That's the way it comes across, and it's like they're projecting all of that into the show. So yeah, you are not missing anything with this. So yeah, save your sanity, don't watch it.
Hurricane Laura said Drinker really took one for the team for his critique.
The only thing that made it easy was that each episode was only about 20 minutes long. Like, it was insanely short.
So it was like The Simpsons.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like they had they didn't even have enough ideas to fill up like a good half hour, 45-minute episode each time. It was like 20 minutes in and out, done.
That's that's kind of painfully short. But I mean, maybe from your point of view, it was good that it was that short.
Well, I mean, I'd rather have a short amount of terribleness than 2 hours of it or whatever. So. That's why Avatar 2 was a bit of a slog, man. That was like 3.5 hours out of my life.
Well, that's a good segue into feature films, unless there was anything else on TV. No, I don't think so. I mean, yeah. So
Willow was awful, but yeah.
Well, look, I am a bit of a Willow fan. I'll tell you why, because that was the first film I saw in the States. It's on that list. And it was everybody at the summer camp thought that I was nuts. It was like, day off. Lance, what are you going to do? I'm going to hitch into town. I'm going to go and watch 4 movies in a row. You're fucking crazy, man. You're in America for the first time. Don't you want to go and do something else? No, I want to see lots of films. So I did hitch in, which was a whole other experience, and I could have ended up on a episode of America's Most Wanted as a corpse, because I actually got picked up by I was a teenager and I got picked up by some 50-year-old guy, and the whole time in the car I'm sitting there going, God, this guy might be, I don't even know where we're going because I mean, I want to go to the Sangertown Mall, but I don't know. You know, I don't even know if we're going the right way. This guy could just murder me, and so I was like this. I was like really fucking tense in the car, and then suddenly, right, he grabbed my leg, and I go ah like that, and he's like, look, deer over there. You don't have deer in the UK, right? Like, well, yes, we do. We do have deer in the UK. You fucking madman. Fortunately, he let me off at the cinema, and Jesus Christ, that was the first and last time I ever hitched in America, and someone from the summer camp came to pick me up. But Willow was the first movie I saw in the States, and I can remember it was Willow. Then I saw the Deadpool. Do you remember that with Clint Eastwood?
That was a Dirty Harry one, wasn't it?
It was
Liam Neeson was in that.
It was the naff Dirty Harry one with the remote control car that went around killing people, blowing up bombs under cars. Is the only thing I can remember about it.
That wasn't his best.
And his partner got killed, which I think happened in every single Dirty Harry film.
You don't want to be Dirty Harry's partner, like.
No. I saw those two, and I think I saw maybe Coming to America or something. And I quite liked Willow because I always wanted them to do a big budget. Don't forget, Lord of the Rings hadn't been made at this point. We only had Ralph Bakski's Lord of the Rings film, and you had Sword and the Sorcerer and a few other things, which I still don't think you've seen. You really do need to see this. You've got to track this down and watch this. This is the vinyl soundtrack for this.
The Sword and the Sorcerer. Okay.
It's like a low-budget Conan movie, but made for not a lot of money. But just you know a good script when you hear it. You'll love it. It's fun.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's fun.
But yeah, when you talk about the original Willow, like I didn't mind it. Like it was kind of goofy. I think when you stand it up against something like Lord of the Rings, you know, the Peter Jackson movies from like a decade or so later, obviously it doesn't really hold up to that. But an interesting enough movie, and it definitely has that 80s charm to it. And some of the special effects in it are pretty interesting. Like even now I look at them and I'm like, wow, that's actually pretty amazing stuff for like the 1980s.
Well, Jim D just said first use of morphing CGI, but I'm going to correct you on that, Jim. Actually, Krull was the first film to do that same technique in the same sequence when the magician is trying to turn into a different type of animal, and that he's referring to the footage of the woman when she's trying to turn back to herself, and then she's the old lady at the end. At one point, she turns into a duck. Do you remember all that?
Yeah.
And look, he's Krull.
Krull, yeah. Krull was a great one.
Slayers! Yeah, young Tucker Jenkins in there fighting.
It had one of the most horrifying deaths I think I've ever seen in a fantasy movie as well. Like the Cyclops, sorry, who just gets slowly crushed in that wall. It's like, and you see the whole thing on screen. It's like, God, this is horrific, man.
Yeah, it was pretty. But that's the actor Bernard Bresslaw, and he was known for playing the straight man in all the Carry On films. He would always be like Sid James's best mate or whatever. And he was best friends with my neighbour's dad. They went to school together.
Oh, okay.
So one time, they were having a garden party or something, and I saw and Bernard Bresslaw, by the way, is about 6'7" tall. That's why he got to play the Cyclops. So I suddenly saw Bernard Breslaw's head like going past like this. I'm like, that looks like the guy from Carry On in the next door neighbour's garden. Yeah. So that was quite interesting. One of your big fans on your channel, because I see this guy when we're moderating all the time. RIPNZ. Sword and the Sorcerer, low budget Conan, good fun. Richard Lynch was the bad guy. And actually, I did a super chat shout out to you to said look up Richard Lynch. He is one of the best B movie bad guy actors of all time. Fantastic.
Have a look at him here.
Well, the reason I was saying I really wanted to look forward to Willow was it was the first fantasy movie that had a massive budget. The first one with a really, really big budget where they had, a battle with like 500 extras as opposed to 20, and it was Star Wars but with fantasy, and I was hoping they were going to do a sequel, and they had several of them planned, but it just didn't do the money that they were hoping for. But when it was released in the UK, it was heavily cut. And of course, it was one of the first films I saw in America. So I took like 15 friends to see it at the Empire Leicester Square the following summer when it opened in the UK. And I was like, I'm sure it was gorier than this. and all the gore was cut out.
Oh yeah, see, I remember that back in the day when you were like, because as a kid I would watch movies and stuff when they just were showing on TV, and they would always get edited, but you weren't aware of it because you hadn't seen the original. So like they would edit out swear words, they would edit out the really gory stuff.
Oh, you must have been so confused when you saw Uncut Lethal Weapon. It's like a whole different movie from the ITV
totally.
one.
It was when I watched the uncut version of Predator, I was like, damn, there was so much cool stuff that I missed out on.
But didn't your dad take you to see that at the cinema, or was that somebody else?
Nah, because yeah, that would have been way after my time. Like the Predator was in like '87, I think that came out, so I was only like 3 or 4 years old then.
Actually, Predator was released right at the end of '87, but the official release of it, the widespread release of it, was January '88. Sorry, and the reason I know is because it's in my diary.
Okay.
I went to see it the first week of January. I actually had a pirate copy of Predator. Somebody, I went to art college, Epsom Art College, and somebody had a VHS of it. Like I paid 20 quid for it. Oh my God. You couldn't, it looked like you were just watching a jungle from a Doctor Who film from like the 70s with really bad effects. And I thought, this is why I should never watch pirate videos.
It does occur to me though, like if you went through some of the years there, you would have an absolute classic in each year. Like in '84, you had the Terminator. '85, you had Commando. '86, you had Aliens. '87, you had Predator, and then '88, you had Die Hard.
Yeah,
they were spoiled back then.
So the very first screening of Aliens, tell you this quickly, was at the Odeon Marble Arch. And if anyone in the chat remembers this cinema, please shout out. And the Odeon Marble Arch seated about 1,200 people. It was the biggest screen in London at the time. And when they screened a 70mm print there, it was longer than my street. It was huge, right opposite Marble Arch. It's not there anymore because they knocked it down and put a hotel up about 10 years ago. And the very first screening of Aliens in the UK was there at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday night. It was one of the very first times when they did a screening after midnight. They did that with the Star Wars prequels later.
Yeah.
You could go to the cinema and see it at 1 minute past 12 and then try and work out how the fuck you were going to get home from the cinema at 3 in the morning with your worried parents trying to call you and all that. So I worked at the cinema at the time, and the manager of the cinema decided we were all going, and he booked tickets. So it was all the ushers and the managers of this cinema from Kingston. We all went up in cars and went up there and went to see it at 1 o'clock in the morning. Imagine seeing Aliens on a 70mm print, the biggest screen you've ever seen, with 1,200 people.
It must have been some experience, man.
Oh, mate, it was so good. It was so good. And then I went to see it again the following Saturday at the Odeon, Leicester Square. It was nowhere near as good there. And they had the armoured car vehicle parked out the front, the truck. The one with the Marines.
Oh, the APC, yeah.
The APC, sorry, yeah. And that was converted from one of those vehicles that they used to tow planes round.
Yeah, it's an aircraft tug, yeah.
Yeah, that was
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was really great. It's so annoying that you didn't have digital photography and you couldn't get your picture taken next to it back then. But so I was at that screening of Aliens, and I was at the very first UK screening of Die Hard, which is 27th of November, Sunday morning, 10 o'clock. Took 22 people, London Film Festival. No one had ever heard of it. So the cinema only had about 50 people in it because no one had heard of it.
Yeah,
it wasn't released until later on. Anyway, we're digressing a bit. Oh, it's all good stuff. So films, Avatar 2, films, segue. So yeah, your review of Avatar 2 was pretty bang on because I've seen it twice now. Have you just seen it the once?
Just the once. That was enough for me.
So I saw it in 2D, and then I went to see it with my friend's kids. Dick and the co-founder of the Outcasts, his kids, Toby, one of the other Outcasts, and his twin kids, and that was the 3D one. And the first time I went, it was like, oh yeah, the world looks really cool, and yeah, the technology it's pushed, and oh, hang on, who's this kid? He seems a bit annoying, but I'll go with it. And then you sort of keep watching, and yeah, this kid's getting really fucking annoying actually. And but then really cool action, and really, I need the toilet. What time is it? So it was good, but I've never been so divided over a movie. It was like there was so much about it that was so good, and there was a lot about it that was not great. And
you know what it's like, man? It's like going to your favorite restaurant where you've had like the best dishes like you've ever had, and they serve you absolute shite, and your brain almost can't make that connection, and it's like you're trying to convince yourself, no, it's actually quite good. This is just slightly different, but it's good. And eventually you walk away, you go home, and then you think, no, that was shit. Like, and I think you just need to come to that realization sometimes, and it's a bit of a weird situation because James Cameron, obviously, yep, responsible for some of the best movies of his generation or any generation of Hollywood's filmmakers, but that doesn't mean he gets a free pass to produce shite now, and it just feels like a real overblown vanity project. That's what this movie is, and I saw it in 3D IMAX, and it purely for the reason that the timing worked out really well for like what I was doing that day, and it's like that was the only showing that was on at the time I needed it. So I wasn't
aware there was an IMAX in that part of Scotland.
There is, if you go far enough, yeah.
Is it the one on the oil rig?
No, if you head over Edinburgh way, you can get it.
Oh, I know. Yeah, go on.
But yeah, like with 3D particularly, I don't get it at all. I don't understand the appeal of it because for the first few minutes, it's just really jarring and the action is really jerky because of I don't know if it's the frame rate or whatever, or just the way your eyes process the 3D. And then from then on, you get used to it and you don't even notice it. So it's not even like, wow, this looks so cool because it's in 3D. You're not even aware of it. It's just a regular movie from that point on. But you've got these uncomfortable plastic glasses on your face for the next 3.5 hours. And so, yeah, didn't really enjoy that aspect of it. Didn't see the appeal of it. And the rest of it, visually, yeah, okay, it's impressive. No denying it. There's some great scenes that he's able to conjure up there. But again, that loses its impact when you've seen 3.5 hours of it. You know, there's only so many incredible vistas that I can witness before I just think, yeah, okay, this is enough now. I just want some stuff I care about.
I mean, I enjoy the world. I enjoy the characters. I liked how they brought back Quaritch. I thought that was a really clever idea. Okay, it's kind of cheating, and yeah, we're going to show you a scene that we've just thought of, but that we're pretending happened before. And I was kind of waiting for some kind of background video or for him to find some kind of video that established, whoever he had a bit of a side piece with on the base, which is how the kid produced. And look, a character like that probably would be boning with one of the female Marines in his shag shack somewhere on the base. It was certainly
whether they wanted it or not. Quaritch is that kind of guy,
Well,
he's a Chad. What can I say?
He's from the school of Sean Connery romanticism.
Yeah,
yeah, and it would have been interesting to have done something with that, but I felt when I watched it the second time, because look. You and I, one of the things we disagree on is I love the original Avatar, and I went to see it like 7 times. When the extended edition came out, I saw that twice at the cinema, because for me, that was a benchmark film, and it was what cinema should be about. Totally took me to another world. The action was fucking amazing. I couldn't get enough of it. So I really loved it. Now, look, yeah, it was Dances with Wolves in Space, but you know what? I don't care, because I can't remember which famous director said it. I think it was John Ford, but he said every great movie is a Western. No, Walter Hill. Walter Hill said that, director of Red Heat. Every great movie is a Western, and you can throw a film title at Walter Hill, and he'll tell you why it's a Western.
Yeah.
And Avatar basically is a Western in space. The Na'vi are the Indians, and
100%, yeah. That's
so I don't mind that trope. I don't mind that it's a worn trope. As long as the dressing is nice, and the dressing was very nice, so I didn't mind that. And I'm quite happy to go back and visit that world for a, a long period of time. But when I saw the movie the second time, because look, I like the original Avatar, and I went to see it like 7 times. When the extended edition came out, I saw that twice at the cinema, because for me, that was a benchmark film, and it was what cinema should be about. Totally took me to another world. The action was fucking amazing. I can't remember which famous director said it. I think it was John Ford, but he said every great movie is a Western. No, Walter Hill. Walter Hill said that, director of Red Heat. Every great movie is a Western, and you can throw a film title at Walter Hill, and he'll tell you why it's a Western. the stuff that was bad about it for me really stuck out. And I thought, actually, yes, there's loads of pretty things to look at, but why didn't you put that in the extended version and give us a short, sharp cut and get to the action a bit faster? Because one of the things that rang true in your review was we could have got to the ending, half an hour earlier. And I think you're right.
Oh, no, like at least an hour. You could have cut an hour out of this film and lose nothing.
Yeah, so I'm sure someone will do a phantom edit of it at some point, and it might be a shorter, punchier film. I mean, Jim said Pandora is stunning. It is. The world building in it is beautiful. I liked the new tribe and all of that stuff, and I liked all the little culturalisms. Wasn't too sure about the Maori stuff with them sticking their tongues out and all that.
This is my problem, because it's like he hasn't invented cultures. He's just taken cultures that already exist and just made them blue. And it's like, well, that's not writing. Like, you've just like ported something over into something else. That's just lazy, And so I'm not going to give him credit for like making these rich, like interesting Na'vi cultures when literally he's just taken human cultures and copied them. If he'd done something completely new and different, but it was as equally well thought out and well developed, like, okay, I'd give him full credit for that. But the benchmark I always use, right, is you look at something like Star Wars: A New Hope. I think the box office for that was like, what, 700 million? Something like that.
Worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide. The box office for Avatar was like 3-4 times that, easily. But which is the film that people still talk about now? Which is the one that had a cultural impact? It wasn't Avatar.
That's interesting, but the other way to benchmark that question is ask a 20-year-old the same question.
I think most of them would probably know more about Star Wars than they would about Avatar.
Maybe because it's such a sprawling.
Yeah, like if I said to your average 20-year-old, tell me who Luke Skywalker is, or tell me who Han Solo is, or Darth Vader, they could probably tell me. If I went to them and say, tell me who Colonel Quaritch is, or tell me who Jake Sully is, or Natiri, they'd probably just stare at you with a really blank expression and then walk slowly away.
Or you might get a really cheeky one who says he's the guy who had the side piece of a shag around the back of the shack.
Yeah, well, could be, yeah.
He shagged that science lady.
Sigourney Weaver, yeah.
I don't think maybe the two of them had a more love-hate relationship than we realised. I mean, okay, so there's two. There's 2 other films coming, right? 2? Is it more?
I think there's 3.
They've shot principal photography all in one go, right? And,
I think, yeah. Chris Gore shared the slate of upcoming Avatar movies, and they're going into like 2028.
Okay.
So really, that's going to be the last thing that James Cameron does as a filmmaker, I should imagine. And then he's going to retire.
I think a good filmmaker will never retire. Ask Ken Loach. But my prediction, right? I'm going to call this now for the end of the series. Is the daughter who looks like Sigourney Weaver's being voiced by Sigourney Weaver, who was the baby of Sigourney Weaver's Avatar. We don't quite know how she got pregnant. She is going to be able to take control of all things on Iowa eventually. And the whole thing's going to boil down to a massive super confrontation between the Earth bridgehead. That you saw that bridgehead looked pretty cool though, right? The big city with all the guns and everything around the rim, and I kind of like that. And I think it's going to be like the director's cut of The Abyss, if you've seen that. She's going to take control of the water, and she's going to threaten to flood the whole thing, and then they'll all make peace and agree to work together, or the humans will do something stupid to show they can never.
I don't think they can, because really they've set up the stakes here now that humans are fighting for their very survival because their planet is dying, and so I don't think you could really work it so that the humans just have to be annihilated.
Well, that's I think the balance of power will be that she'll demonstrate she's got such great power. It'll be that thing like at the end of the Abyss director's cut, the water will rise up and she'll be able to flood and kill them all. Or are you going to stop this nonsense? And I think that's how it's all going to end on the last movie. That's my prediction.
I think as well what they'll do, they're going to set up Quaritch for a redemption arc.
Right.
Because he's already starting to go that way, I think.
Yeah, well, as in his avatar as opposed to really him.
Yeah, because he's not the real person. He's just like the sum total of his experiences and personality, I suppose, but he's not that guy. And so I think they'll have him go down a different path.
Well, Jim predicts 4 and 5 won't be made. I know the principal photography for all the films he tends to shoot has been done already, but I don't know how many of that is exactly.
I know the thing is the post-production is going to be momentously expensive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I could see them not getting done. I could see them maybe releasing the next movie and that's it, because this film is underperforming. It's not tracking anywhere near where they expected it to be, and I don't think it's going to get much better.
Well, it's coming up to it's 850 million now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it'll break the billion easily enough, and like I kind of thought it would top out maybe 1.5, but like with the amount of money they've spent on it, like I think that's probably less than they were hoping for.
Well, let's talk about the standout films from 2022, and okay. there were a few good ones. I mean, there's some very obvious ones. And there were a few good ones. This is the perfect opportunity for me to tell you about my very embarrassing Top Gun story. But I mean, was Top Gun Maverick the number one movie for you this year? What
All right, so I'm not going to pretend that it's like the film with the most artistic merit of the year, because it's a big crowd pleasing action movie. But if I was to come up with the film that just made me feel happy leaving that movie theater, it would be Top Gun Maverick. I haven't felt that sense of exhilaration and that sense of just, God damn, I saw a really fucking good movie there and I'm really happy. I feel great about the world and everything's looking pretty good. I haven't felt that in a long time, and it was really nice to be reminded of it with watching that.
Was that for you? Was that Edinburgh IMAX?
Yes.
Right. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And that was a good way to watch it. I'll say it wasn't 3D, but it was just IMAX.
Packed house.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think the opening night of a right film in the right screen with the right audience makes a big difference on the experience of a movie. You can only experience seeing a film for the first time once, as I pointed out to the manager of the Odeon Leicester Square when their fucking projector broke 2 minutes into Star Wars, the third film of the prequel nonsense. And he said that we shouldn't get a refund. Yeah, that I got 6 free tickets out of that anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't try me on that. Yeah, you can only see and that can really, if you're seeing it with a packed house, and everybody's there for the same reason as you, and there was a lot of expectation. So I was at it was a cast and crew screening, but all the people that were at the screening that we went to all worked on the post production. So there wasn't any of the big name actors there. I think there might have been 1 or 2 of the little people that did tiny roles. There was a message from like Tom at the beginning of the film, but it was on a screen and stuff. And but it was absolutely rammed. And the film starts and you get that. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. They knew exactly the right notes to hit, and they did it.
As soon as you heard that, and it was like everybody just went, "Whoa!" There was just this massive like roar in the cinema, and none of these people are, because I asked a few of them, and none of them had seen the completed movie. They'd all worked on like tiny little things in an office, like a smoke trail or something. Yeah. Oh, and what was really nice about that was the same screen, Empire Leicester Square IMAX it was, that I saw Top Gun with my first girlfriend back in 1985. And that was the first film we ever saw in that screen. And that became my favorite screen, Empire Screen 1. And the thing I always remember about seeing Top Gun was that the sound of the jets made the floor tremble beneath your feet.
Yeah.
and they did it again, and it was cracking. I got to agree with you. It's in my top 3 for 2022. I don't know that I can put these films in order, but it's in there. It ticked all the boxes for me. Yeah, you're not going to go back and look at it and say that it was anything beyond what it was.
It was just a great reminder that, you know, you don't have to subvert expectations. You don't have to deconstruct heroes. You don't have to like supplant the previous generation and make them look bad just to push the new one. You can do all of that good stuff. You know, you can honor the past and pay tribute to, but also kind of move forward at the same time and tell a great rousing story at the same time. And yeah, couldn't fault it. It was just everything I hoped it would be and more.
Yeah, I mean, and it, you know, it's a reminder that films are there to entertain.
Yes.
And, you know,
I think Tom Cruise understands that more than most other actors in Hollywood today. And I think that the fact that you had the humility to just make that video and say, hey, we just really appreciate you coming to see our film. Hope you enjoy it. You know, it's simple, and you can argue whether it's, you know, how staged it is and all that stuff, but I think he just understands his audience. It's like, I'm not here to lecture you and preach to you about politics or any of that crap. I just want to, you know, wish you the best and say thanks for watching my movie, and I hope you enjoy it. Perfect. That's all you need.
I actually also was, of the things we were going to talk about, although I didn't pre-warn you of this one, but I was trying to think of a person. If I was going to pick one person, a bit like we do within the Outcasts every year, we give the Outcast that did the most towards our production stuff or behind the scenes, we give an award named after Graham Fletcher Cook, who is the late brother of Dexter Fletcher, who directed Rocket Man, and he's the guy who inspired us all to start acting and this kind of thing. If I was going to give out like a special note to somebody in the industry who I think's contributed the most this year, I'd probably have to give it to Cruise, I think, because he's always pushing the envelope of what's possible. You look at the stunts for the new Mission Impossible film. Did you watch that video with him doing all the jumps off the bike?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
I mean, a guy's obviously an adrenaline junkie, but
he's doing shit that like men half his age would balk at, and he's just going for it at 60 years old. Yeah, good on you, man.
I'm just waiting for him to do what do they call that thing where they wear the Batwing suits and they fly down the side of the mountain?
Wingsuit,
wingsuit, right? Because you had those in your first book. People when they're assaulting the prison, isn't that what they're wearing when they jump out?
It was parachutes that they used because they did a high altitude, high opening jump. But
they were when I was reading it. You made the design of them sound quite unique, and in my head, but that's the beauty of reading fiction. You picture your own thing. I was kind of picturing that they were some kind of new version of that, or early version. That I'm sure he's going to do a chase for real with cameras, wearing one of those at some point, and I'll be thinking, "Oh my God, please don't die."
Yeah.
And he's going to go into space for the next one. You know,
might as well. Yeah, it's the next logical frontier.
Well, yeah, I mean, he might find that space station from Moonraker if it's still up there. So the other films I've got a little thing for this, haven't I? I put down a few films that I wanted to make sure I gave a mention to. There was a couple of surprises here, and a couple of these I've only seen in the last 2 days. So I've got Top Gun Maverick there as well. I've got Violent Night, All Quiet on the Western Front, definitely the best historical movie I saw this year. And The Barbarian, which I sent you a text about. I've only just seen that 3 days ago, and I saw Violent Night last night. Now, have you seen Violent Night?
No, not yet. I'd been meaning to see it, but I haven't got around to it yet.
Okay, so picture this. If you were to take Miracle on 34th Street, blend it with Home Alone, and then make Santa John McClane from Die Hard in the story, that's Violent Night.
Yeah, I've seen the trailers. It did. It looked pretty good.
It is. I mean, when you're watching it, it's just like, they're not going to do that, are they? Oh, they have.
Yeah.
And, oh man, you're going to love it, I think. It's so funny. I wish I could have taken my 20 friends to see Die Hard, and then the film in the evening. We went to see Scrooged in the evening with Bill Murray. But I wish in the evening it could have been Violent Night. That would have been the perfect pairing. Barbarian is, I'm not a big watcher of horror films. Not that I don't like them. It's just there are so many, and so many of them are so samey, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people recommended The Barbarian, said I would really like it, and I actually think it's a cracking independent film. First time director, so I'm always really keen to give, new people a shout out. Made for $5 million. British actress as the lead, Georgina Campbell, playing American. She does a really good job. And it's a very, very simple setup. I don't want to give too much away, but it's about two people that rent an Airbnb at the same time by accident. And then they end up having to share it because one of them's got nowhere else to go. There's a convention in town. All the hotels are booked, yada, yada, set up, and it's pissing down with rain. So they end up sharing the place, but they actually get on really well. And it starts off as a kind of like rom-com. And the director is really good at fucking with the narrative and not giving you the things you would expect, even from a horror movie. And one of the other things I really liked about it is sudden introduction of a second narrative halfway through the film that completely throws the whole movie. That's really rare that happens. And yeah, it really works in this film. But they basically find a door that goes down into a basement that's got weird shit going on.
Right, okay.
And I don't want to say any more. And a lot of weird things happen, but it's really well done. The jump scares are really clever. There's not that much gore in it. And when the gore's there, it's great. But I'd be interested to know if anyone in chat saw Barbarian. The other one I wanted to mention was Boiling Point. I recommended that to you before. Did you get around to watching that?
No, but it's on my list for sure because I like the concept behind it, like that single shot movie, basically.
Yeah, and there's a lot of improvised dialogue. We actually recreated it at our acting class one night. With hilarious effect, but they only did 3 takes. I think they did a 4th one, but they used take number 3, and they were going to do 8 takes, and then they got shut down. They got told they were being shut down that night just after they'd done the 3rd take. So they got everybody together and said, we're being shut down tomorrow, pandemic. This was at the end of 2020, I think. And it was the second wave. And yeah, so but Boiling Point for me was a really brave film that didn't just rely on the fact that it was one take. It was all the characters, it was all the minutiae of all the little stories that were going on. Amazing performance from Stephen Graham in the lead actor. All of the supporting cast is superb. Jason Fleming plays this horrible, sleazy kind of like a bastardized evil version of Jamie Oliver, if you can imagine such a thing.
Right.
He's like a guy called Alistair who's got his own restaurant that's actually failing, and he taught Stephen Graham his trade, and Stephen Graham is actually better than him, and he knows it. And he's on TV, and he's a big sort of like TV chef. But in behind all that, he's actually in lots of financial trouble, and he lent Stephen Graham's character the money to start the restaurant. So it's really, really, really nice. RRTNZ has said, did Dexter win a BAFTA for it? No. So look, Dexter Fletcher is didn't make Boiling Point. So Boiling Point was directed by one of the actors in Band of Brothers, Phil Baranti. And it's their production company, and there's about 3 of them that were in Band of Brothers. They made a production company. They made Violent Man with Craig Fairbrass, and they shot about 3 other films this year. And I'll give a shout out to Hester Ruoff as well, who's an up and coming female producer, and she's shooting like 3 movies a year. I don't know where she gets the time to have a life. Probably not, but yeah, really good. What about for you, Drinker? What are the Top Gun Maverick's an easy one? What are the other ones that you've seen? Maybe some surprises that you didn't expect to be good that took you by surprise?
Probably Everything Everywhere All at Once. That really took me by surprise because I went into that having very little prep. I didn't really know what it was meant to be about.
Is that the
Or any...
Michelle Yeoh movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just really fun, really inventive, really quite poignant in places. A great performance by her. You know, she's still got it when it comes to like fight scenes and everything. And yeah, overall, just a great, interesting movie. I really liked it.
I mean, it's not. Is it part of the Marvel universe or is it a separate entity?
No, nothing like that. No, it's completely a separate thing. But I think it handles the whole multiverse thing better than anything that Marvel ever did. Yeah, it's based around this idea that she can jump to different realities where she gets to see different versions of her own life play out. Like, so in other realities, she might be a
I remember.
spy or a kung fu master or whatever. And yeah,
what,
it's great. Like it's all kind of metaphorical. It's really just like almost like her imagination conjuring up this stuff, and it's really just representing the struggle that she's got in her life to reconnect with her daughter and like overcome her overbearing father and all that sort of things. But I think it frames it in a really nice way, and it's like got a pretty heartwarming story at the core of it. So, I mean, how many of us have wondered, especially as we get older, you know, did we take the right paths in life? Did we make the right choices? Are we really
Oh
where we
boy,
want to
yeah,
be?
dude, I'm really going through that right now. As I think quite a lot of my friends are in the current climate that we're in. You know, did I pick the right career?
Yeah, but everyone does it. But I think that's something very universal and interesting. And,
yeah, absolutely,
great,
absolutely.
great thing to work into a story like this.
What about? I mean, but that was a pretty big budget film, and it had a pretty big PR campaign. Were there any like smaller indie films that you saw this year that maybe took you by surprise, perhaps something you wouldn't have normally seen that you saw and that was good? Because I tried to track those ones down myself.
Well, there was one called Rebel by the guys who did Bad Boys for Life, and they were originally going to be doing the Batgirl movie before it got shit canned. But this was this was basically the projects that they actually enjoyed doing, like the stuff that they came up with off their own back. And yeah, Rebel, it's like this story of he's like a Belgian immigrant from, you know, Afghanistan or somewhere like that.
Oh, these are the two guys you had on your
so,
channel.
yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Yeah, so like he, you know, he's just kind of like a regular guy, but he gradually gets drawn into the sort of world of like radicalized, you know, terrorism and stuff like that, and he gets, you know, drawn in to go and serve in Syria, and he has like loads of like shitty experiences, as you can imagine, and it kind of changes him into a different person. But it's like an examination of how you can go from just a sort of normal, everyday, happy-go-lucky guy to being like some crazy, you know, like international terrorist almost. So yeah, really interesting movie and like directed in a really unusual way. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reviewing that when I get the chance.
Yeah, actually, no, that's good, man. You should definitely give it a shout out because I think a lot of the smaller films struggle to find an audience. And as much as you doing a review of Avatar 2 and all the rest of it, you know, is going to get big numbers on the YouTube stuff. I definitely think you'd be doing the film industry a great service, especially the indie filmmakers, by tracking down. There are some great indie films out there. I go and see as many as I can, and a lot of them just don't even get the release that they deserve. I did the same thing when I used to go to video shops. I'd always be sort of like hunting down that smaller film that somebody, you know, people hadn't seen. And the first one of those that I found was called Automatic with Oliver Gruner in it. And the director of it was clearly a massive fan of Aliens because he had his squad of Marines. And it's a really good little kind of cyberpunk action film. And most people probably think Oliver Gruner hasn't done many good films because he kind of was, you know, very much a B-list movie star, and it was a lot of straight to video stuff that he did, and they were cheap and cheerful. But that one was was particularly good of his. But yeah, anyway, in terms of other movies that came out, I, as you probably know, I don't really watch any of the superhero stuff now.
I do not blame you in the slightest.
I'm just so bored because the action is all about spectacle, and I mean, I can't remember. It was another YouTube blogger who coined that phrase. No one ever really dies.
Yeah.
Was that Red Letter Media that did that?
No one's ever really gone. Yeah.
No one's ever really gone. Right.
It is like that, and it's just, Marvel in particular, it's just factory filmmaking really at this point. So it's the death of creativity.
It feels very stale. The action, the bigger and more twisty the action gets, the less I'm engaged. And I remember when you were interviewing Neil Marshall on your channel, and he made that comment about, how much damage can people take, and I'm always telling people, and I do it in my writing workshops, don't break the rules of the universe you create, because if you do, it'll come back to bite you in the arse. And that's why one of the most reviled scenes in James Bond, and I'm a massive James Bond nut, is when Pierce Brosnan does that thing off the ice floe. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Everybody hates that scene because it's just
even he laughs about it now and just takes the piss out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, and an invisible car. These were things that at the time just didn't seem like they could really exist. But Bond is supposed to exist in a world that we can believe in. It's supposed to be tangible to the world that we're in now. Okay, enemy base and a volcano, sure, but not everybody's going to have one of those. But you believe it because everything else in the film has been set in a tangible reality that you can relate to, up to the point that, okay, suddenly we're in an enemy base in a volcano. But when you keep breaking the rules of your reality, so if you do action where no one ever gets killed after somebody fires like 5,000 rounds of ammunition, or they fall off 40 blocks of a building and then get up like nothing's happened, that's not going to happen in reality. Therefore, the action is meaningless. Therefore, there's no suspense. Therefore, why do I care? And I find that happens more and more with films in particular. Somebody's moaning about no Knives Out 2 talk. I think they're talking about The Glass Onion.
Yeah, I mean, oh god, that's going to take some work for me to get through because
I've seen it.
Is it just basically 2 hours of Rian Johnson sucking his own dick?
Well, first of all, I can't verify that because I'm not so intimately acquainted with Mr. Johnson that I could verify if it's doable for him to perform off that physical achievement. It felt to me like if Agatha Christie and a James Bond film on speed had a baby, that would be it. And I like the first Knives Out film. Did you see the first one?
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah.
What was your take on it?
Wasn't a huge fan. Like I don't know if it's possible for a film to be smug rather than a director or an actor, but if it is possible, then that film is one of those things. I think, it's one of those movies that seems to be superficially kind of smart and inventive, but then the more you take a step back and analyze it, the more it just falls apart. And this, I think, is a murder mystery should be airtight. It shouldn't have loads of plot holes because it depends on the revelations. It depends on the clever misdirection of the audience.
Right.
And that's what I don't think Rian Johnson can pull off. Like, I think he's better suited to doing this kind of thing than he is for, like, Star Wars. But, yeah, he's so desperate to make everything subverted and do everything different that he just kind of trips over himself a lot of the time with films like that.
I enjoyed the first 20 minutes of The Glass Onion until it became like a James Bond movie. And I don't mean in the sense that there were car chases and machine guns, in the sense that we're in this massive villain's lair. And it was kind of obvious to me what was going on. And I was right about some of the twists and wrong about some of the others. But, oh man, I just like towards the end, it was like, can't you just do a simple murder mystery? Have you not been to see The Mousetrap? It's been on in the West End for about 500 years, mate. You need
That's
to get
the thing, though. He can't do a simple anything. He has to
right.
like subvert your expectations. He has to do it differently. He has to deconstruct things. Like
Yeah,
that's what he thinks he is as a director. He thinks he's that smart, and
yeah,
he just doesn't have the skill for it.
yeah. I wasn't. I watched it on Boxing Day, and I just when I got to the end of it, I was like, I'm not really sure where I am with this film. I like Daniel Craig's character in it. I like his performance. He's having more fun with it than we are watching him, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But
sometimes it's just nice to see Daniel Craig having fun with anything.
Yeah,
because it seems like most of the time he isn't.
Yeah, I think you and I agree. I seem to recall. Again, we are both pretty big Bond fans. On the whole, though, I'm not a massive fan of the Craig era.
Honestly, apart from George Lazenby, yeah, maybe Timothy Dalton. Like, he's probably my least favorite Bond.
Right, yeah.
Because he's just so freaking miserable the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, he plays it so dead serious. Like, there's just not an ounce of fun to be had in his movies.
I mean, and I don't think the continuing story arc worked. I preferred it. I preferred it when that's the Bourne films that had a big arc, and they started feeling like Jason Bourne movies. I don't want that from a Bond film.
No, exactly.
I want secret agents and gadgets and clandestine meetings and a big enemy base and a massive battle with 500 guys with brightly coloured jumpsuits taking on a submarine crew or whatever, and a big set. And I don't want Daniel Craig taking on all the bad guys and then doing a speech and then escaping. And then spoiler alert, but then they killed him at the end of the last one. And I thought, well, this is the perfect miserable end to a miserable run. Congratulations. Yep. You've exceeded yourselves in a way that I couldn't have predicted. Yeah, that wasn't fantastic. I can see we're coming up to 93 minutes, man. So I just want to get a sense of how you are for time. So I know.
I was. I'll probably need to finish up in like 5 or 10 minutes. So.
All right, man. Let's top it at 10 on that. That's fantastic. Well, if anybody else wants to stick their oar in now about what was your what were your favourites in for 2022, chuck them in the chat. And also don't forget all the links to Drinker's stuff, including his, because I know a few of my guys are in here, including his latest book, Dark Harvest, which is here.
Hey, there it is.
It is. The link for it is below on the screen. And also, my Pegasus Bridge script is out. Did you ever get your package that I sent up to Scotland?
I did not, and I don't
understand
why.
Dude, what the fuck's happened with that? And I sent you the recorded delivery thing. I photographed it and I sent it to you on WhatsApp.
Yeah. So I don't understand where it's gone.
Oh, dude, I'm proper pissed about that because there was a Blu-ray in there for you and everything.
No, I'm sorry, man. Honestly, it's yeah. I mean, I can check with the post office, see if the PO box has got anything that hasn't been redirected or whatever.
Yeah, maybe just show them the photo of the with the number on it, see if because they might be able to track it for you.
Yeah,
it's not the winning lottery ticket in or anything, but you.
No, but like you're taking the time to send it. I don't want it to just disappear into the ether,
Yeah, that's fine. So what things have you got coming up? I mean, obviously you got open bar normally on Thursday. You got some guests lined up. Somebody inspired you to interview people once. I just wonder if you got any more guests you're going to be interviewing.
Well, yes, I will have more. Hopefully, we'll have some bigger ones coming up shortly, but I can't say too much until it's all locked in and confirmed. You know the way it is. But yeah, we'll be doing open bar on Thursday. That'll be our last one of 2022, so it'll be a momentous occasion. And yeah, I'll probably do like a Drinker Reflects, like my sort of year in review video that I do on like December 31st. And then take a day or two off before we get into the new year. Like my main focus, I guess, outside of YouTube will be the movie that I'm doing for Rogue Elements. We're deep in the throes of like working on script, working on actors, working on stunt choreography, all that fun stuff. So there's like a million things that have to be organized to get something like this put together, which I'm sure you know yourself.
I do. That reminded me of one thing I wanted to say to you whilst we were on air, not off air, and we'll wrap up on this point. So, a really good friend of mine, who's one of the people who inspired me to get into filmmaking and still continues to do so. He said to me and many other people, when you first get into filmmaking, whatever element that might be, whether you're the scriptwriter, whether you're the producer, whatever you're doing, whatever angle you're working, when you first step in and you make that commitment to get in, don't forget that at that point, you are now part of the film industry, okay? And you don't think that you are. You have this mentality that you don't think that you deserve to be there. And you think the industry it's this thing, it's this city over the hill that I can't see. I'm not really part of it. That's not true. You are the industry as soon as you make that commitment. It doesn't matter how big you are compared to somebody else. You've started that journey. You've become part of the industry. When you started, you were just a critic on YouTube. But now you've gone into film production as well. So now you're part of the film industry on the other side.
Indeed, yeah. I'm going to have to critique myself now. That's the scary position.
Well, I'm sure other people will be gunning for you when that happens. But and you know, listen, that's when you stand on the parapet of the castle, you stick your head out, people are going to throw apples at you. But if you don't stand on the parapet of the castle, you can't see what's happening in the world beyond. So you've got to stand up there occasionally. But well, look, I want to thank the Critical Drinker for the second time for coming on my channel. I hope we can do it again sometime in 2023, sir, when you've got a free evening. And thanks everybody in the chat for tuning in. I don't think we've quite got the Outcast channel up to 1,000 subs yet, but I might have to pop on your channel at some point for that to happen. But thank you so much for those people that have subscribed, because there have been a few today, and it's been really great to see everybody's opinions on everything in the chat. But I'm going to give the final word to my guest, who is going to say,
"That's all I've got for today. So go away now."
And we